Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now getting closer to the end of August. Here we are, it is the 20th already, time is just flying by, and as we approach the D23 event, Disney is getting ready to unveil a series of trailers at that point in time, as well as very few announcements, because this year, we know that there's been a lot of cancellations, a lot of delays, and so D23 is going to suffer this year as an event by Bob Iger and the Disney board. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on with Lucasfilm right now. Now, I think that we are all very well aware about what is going on with this company. They are basically walking on eggshells. They're in a very delicate position, especially with the Ahsoka series, and I've said this many times before. I'm still not 100% sold on Ahsoka just judging by the trailers and or the TV spots. I think that it's really going to settle in once you reach the third episode after the 2-episode premiere, to see exactly what this show is all about when it comes to how it's going to be executed, in motion, like actually seeing this thing and how it really works. But that's what brings us to what the current state of Lucasfilm is at right now, and how it's really not looking good for 2024. Let's discuss exactly why, and what is about to happen per Disney and Bob Iger, and what he is handing down to Disney specifically, and Lucasfilm as well. Now, to top the list, we know that Kathleen Kennedy has only been wreaking havoc for all departments of the company. However, with Lucasfilm heading into much trouble after the failure of Indy 5 and its box office collapse due to Kathleen Kennedy, one major development has to do with Disney's plans to course-correct Lucasfilm and its following Star Wars material after the release of Ahsoka. Now, a Lucasfilm shutdown is set to occur in the coming weeks that was already greenlit by Bob Iger. This shutdown's main purpose, that is set to last for 2 whole weeks, will bring a total halt to all conversations related to Lucasfilm's plans for future Star Wars shows and movies at Disney, of course, and as Disney and the board are to provide Lucasfilm a new series of plans in place to move forward with more announcements and, of course, frequency to be, of course, settled in for said movies and TV shows to be released in theaters and on Disney+. Now, this shutdown is also supposed to be meant as breathing room for Lucasfilm to reform their strategy to course-correct the Star Wars franchise and to bring it back to the way it used to be when George Lucas was running the show back in 2005 with Revenge of the Sith. Now, let me just stop here quick before I get to the next big piece of this development, guys, is that I said this yesterday, and I really wanted to make it very clear and vivid to all of you out there that may have a lot of hope about the Ahsoka series, is that I think it's going to take a lot more than one big hit over at Lucasfilm to really course-correct Star Wars. Now look, let's say if, and only if, Ahsoka is the best thing in the world that Lucasfilm puts out there since 2015's The Force Awakens. Let's just say it is the greatest thing of all time. Even if it is going to be the greatest thing of all time, that's still not enough to course-correct Star Wars and to bring it back to George Lucas era levels. And I'm not saying this just to be a pessimist. I'm not just saying this to be somebody who wants to see a company fail deliberately. I always would love to see Star Wars succeed and really go back to the roots of George Lucas's philosophy and what Star Wars is really all about. We all hope for that, right? But let's face it, Disney is Disney, and they're going to do what they want to do, and regardless of them trying to course-correct things, they're not going to course-correct it in the exact ways that you would really imagine them to do. And the real way, in my opinion, the real and only way to course-correct things are to fire Kathleen Kennedy outright, get rid of all of her loyalists, get George Lucas on board as, the person running the show, and having John and Dave do things that he is telling them to do, from start to finish of every show. And I'm not saying that George is going to have to be the answer forever. I'm not saying that, but they need his philosophy to remain intact. Now, we know that George is involved to an extent on several Star Wars shows. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But in my opinion, it's still not 100% enough, because we still have Kathleen Kennedy, having creative power over things like The Acolyte, Skeleton Crew Season 1 and 2, and yes, they are planning Season 2, as sad as it seems, as well as an Acolyte spin-off show. And let's not forget about the Rey movie that nobody is really asking for, at least not the hardcore Star Wars fans. Nobody's really asking for that. And the fact that Disney chose the Rey movie to be the first Star Wars film to release since The Rise of Skywalker, I think is terrible marketing, and it's a terrible move on their end. I still, by the way, do not believe that the Rey movie is going to ever see the light of day, between what's happening with WGA and SAG, as well as Lucasfilm having an ongoing issue with consistency in production. So, on to the next. This is where things get worse. Now, the Lucasfilm shutdown is set to occur by this October and is aimed for the first week of that month, lasting until the middle portion of that month, where the restructuring of Lucasfilm departments will also begin. Now, this comes just after the Lucasfilm Purge was greenlit by Bob Iger that will be a progressive thing over the next 2 years to complete. Additionally, Bob Iger is also handing down instructions to Lucasfilm during said shutdown for numerous cancellations to become active for films and shows, and that even James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie is set to vanquish off the slate of Star Wars projects. This shutdown will bring a halt to all brainstorming by the Lucasfilm Story Group being done, as well as marketing for existing and upcoming material being formed, as everything is going to be done in a cheaper manner moving onwards for 2024. Now again, like I've said before, I think the fact that there's no Star Wars Celebration in 2024, you're not going to get one until 2025 in Japan, so you're not going to have your traditional event next year, along with the fact that we have The Acolyte coming out as the main show next year is also a very big letdown. And it's being run by Leslie Headland, who has been proven to be a George Lucas hater, somebody that does not like his work, especially with the Expanded Universe. She claims, by the way, to be an Expanded Universe mega fan, but she's really not. She has literally gone on stage at Star Wars Celebration and made it openly clear that she fake cries, that she makes all of these claims that she's a long EU fan, yet goes along to promote the High Republic garbage. And I've said this many times. I read, and I took the time to get, a good way to justify my thoughts on this. I took the time to read every comic and book, and yes, I took that sacrifice, of the High Republic material, and let me tell you, it's horrible. And that's just my opinion. That's my only one word right then and there. So, what's interesting, though, is exactly what's happening with Lucasfilm right now. There's a lot of restructuring. There's a lot of delays and cancellations. Everything is going back and forth, and it's just tiresome. And I think that this is exactly why a lot of Star Wars fans out there have really just taken a big step back and have given up for a while, and are just very skeptical about the Ahsoka series. So, anyway, guys, I would love to hear your take on all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.